First of all, I'd like to thank you guys. You've said my cut is clearly working and that I've lost a lot of weight already, and I have. But you know what they say, the camera adds about £10, and well, little do most people know that flexing inside a green wheelie bin takes off at least £30. Well, I suppose that since I'm the only one flexing in a green wheelie bin, it makes sense why I'm the only one that knows how dry, lean and conditioned it can make you appear. There's a reason that Chris Bumstead isn't flexing on stage in a green wheelie bin, and it's not because he can't. Anyway, since I am the only one cutting, and nobody's cutting as hard as me, I thought I'd give you some of my best tips on how to get shredded. Now you may be thinking, why am I going to listen to this borderline, morbidly obese, bald head looking basement dwelling specimen on how to get dry, lean and conditioned? Well, that's because in about 4 or 5 months from now, that's exactly what I'm going to be, a dry, lean and conditioned specimen. And if I can do it, so can you. The first most important step is you need to want it. You need to want to get shredded. It's extremely hard to get someone to do something they don't want to do, and that includes yourself. If you do not have the motivation or desire to get shredded, the chances are you are not going to achieve your goal. Getting shredded, especially if you try and drop below 10% body fat, will be hard, unless you are some sort of genetic phenom, like myself. Second most important is, whether you like it or not, you need to eat less calories than you burn. As I repeat, that is the only way you will lose weight, in particular fat. Think of your body like an engine. Obviously not an engine as powerful and efficient as mine, but if you don't give it enough fuel, for example food, it will start to use your stored fat as fuel instead. The first step is getting a rough estimate of how many calories you burn a day, which can vary a lot from person to person, just through different lifestyle choices and how they work. For example, I'll have one of these calculators linked in the comments and descriptions. Eat roughly what it says your hypothetical calorie amount a day would be for a week, and if it's accurate, your weight should be pretty much the same by the end. If not, just adjust it either way by a few hundred calories. You shouldn't try and lose as much weight as physically possible. You could hypothetically lose 10 kilograms of fat in a month, but not only would it be extremely unhealthy at that rate, but fat wouldn't be the only thing you would lose. You would also lose a lot of muscle mass, and ultimately, you'll not look as good as if you lost the weight over a longer period of time. Ideally, about 0.5% of body weight a week max would be healthy, but you could probably lose up to 1% and not lose a significant amount of muscle. But honestly, what's the point of losing all that fat just to lose loads of muscle with it? It's not worth it. Bigger isn't always better when it comes to a calorie deficit. You might lose the weight faster, but again, it's just not worth it, especially when you are trying to achieve an aesthetic physique by the end. Another tip is make sure your shredding diet is healthy, or relatively healthy. Hypothetically, you could eat absolute trash while trying to get shredded, but realistically, you cannot. It makes it significantly harder, as with me, for example, eating loads of junk food makes me want more junk food, and it leaves me constantly craving more and more. Just avoid highly processed, sugary food and heavily salted food. There was some study that I don't have the papers for, I looked at, and it had 2 groups of people that ate the exact same calories, and the only difference was one had loads of salt, and that group was significantly more hungry than the other one, despite being on the same calories. It's just better and easier if you have more satiating, healthier foods. Same sort of thing, like you could also, hypothetically, just burn off loads of extra calories through doing exercise and outtrain a terrible diet, but you cannot. The easiest route is calorie reduction by reducing your food intake, and to supplement that with some sort of cardio. The best type being whatever is the most enjoyable and light intensity for you. Some people like walking and doing steps. My personal go-to is jump rope, but I'm too fat for that, so I walk as well. As for training, you do not need to change the way you train just because you're trying to lose fat. You shouldn't do higher reps for toning. That is complete nonsense. And if you change your training routine significantly enough, you will probably lose more muscle than you would like. You should train pretty much the exact same way you did on the bulk, or whatever you did before the cut, as you do when you're cutting. Just make sure you train pretty close to failure, or to failure, whilst keeping training very consistent and intensity high. The main thing is that you should pick a workout routine that you enjoy the most, and as long as you are training each muscle group at least 2 times a week, you'll be golden. It is harder to build muscle whilst in a calorie deficit, but it is not impossible, especially when you're a genetic phenom like me. Cutting mainly just reveals what muscle you have built under the bulbous layer of fat that you may or may not have. And train your goddamn abs. If I had access to an alternate version of myself who decided to train abs and then one other one that not to train abs, I could show you how much of a big difference that would make. But ultimately, that technology has not been invented yet, so you're gonna have to take my word for it. Train them. None of this they get worked through compound movements. Yeah, so do your biceps and your triceps, but if you want to make those big and juicy, you've got to isolate them. Same thing goes for abs. They may be revealed in the kitchen, but they are in the gym or the basement. Make sure you also hit your protein. You need to make sure you are eating enough protein whilst getting shredded, otherwise your body will eat up that hard-earned muscle. Not only will it make it easier to stick to a calorie deficit, as protein is more satiating, it also burns slightly more calories than eating other macros such as fats or carbs. I would, just to be safe, eat 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilograms of body weight, or if you're uncivilized, that is about a gram per pound of body weight. Roughly about 20% of the calories from protein are burned whilst digesting. If you cannot get all your protein from whole foods, protein powder is also a very cheap and accessible option. Now, you don't need to bathe with your protein powder like I do, but when I do, I always make sure it's my protein. And if you need any supplements like creatine, protein powder or pre-workout, if you click the link in the description and in the comments, and use code Hancock, you will get a fat juicy discount off anything on the MyProtein website. Let me know what other type of content you want me to do and I'll think about it. By popular demand, I'm currently training my big toe and my pelvic floor every day for 30 days, just to see how tight I can become and how thick and strong I can make my big toe. But you'll have to wait another month for the full reveal. Lastly, arguably the most important part of how to get shredded, the one piece of information you should take home from this video is to make sure that you are subscribed and with that bell notification on, because even if you employ all the tips mentioned in this video, none of it will work if I still am cutting, because I am the only one cutting. Nobody's cutting as hard as me. I have an infinite number of alternate versions of myself. I am the most dry, lean and conditioned. Nobody else is recording videos in the bathtub like me. Nobody.